What's going on, everyone? It's Sean from All Things EV, and I have brought a friend, Logan, to join me to talk about a really interesting topic, Tesla insurance, and how this could impact Tesla owners. Logan, thanks for joining me on the channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So this is not our first time in front of the camera. We've been working on some things on my real estate YouTube channel that people will eventually see. So hopefully that shows, the good chemistry shows on camera. Why don't you tell people who you are and what you do for a living?
So I'm Logan Willis. I'm an independent agent. I work for Colorado Insurance, and basically I just write home, auto, and umbrella insurance for basically everybody in Colorado.
You also own this beautiful P3D here that you see in the frame.
Yes.
How long have you had this?
I took delivery in September of 2018.
Yep.
And it's my third child.
Yeah.
So.
Response from people online curious about Tesla insurance has been phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's probably, I don't know, 50 or 60 questions that people sent in when I let everyone know that I was going to be meeting with you. So excited to address some of those. We won't be able to get to all of them, but we'll be able to sort of set a really good basis and foundation for what auto insurance is and what happens when you buy or sign up for insurance, and then how Tesla might be able to capitalize on some of those gaps or business opportunities. So why don't you start with a very simple, what happens when someone buys auto insurance? What process is initiated when someone reaches out to you and says, hey, I need to insure my Tesla?
Yep. So I mean, really, it's just grabbing information on the car, putting it through my system, and then quoting it out with the carriers. So obviously, being an independent agent, I shop through 15 different carriers, so I can actually find the best market for someone who is shopping for the best price for the best coverage. But with Teslas, it's almost kind of backwards, because legacy carriers haven't quite caught up to what these are, the safety that they have, the ability that they're going to have in the future with just full self-driving and autopilot and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, it definitely is a unique situation, and I'm very excited for Tesla insurance. I mean, I write my own insurance right now for my car, and eventually when Tesla releases theirs, I will not pay myself for insurance and pay Tesla, because it's going to be just in my mind much more cost effective and efficient than what like a Nationwide or a Safeco or Hartford would offer.
What sort of things are factored into someone's premium? So you have driving history, whether someone has a lot of speeding tickets, whether they're male or female. Why don't you unpack that a little bit and talk about what are some of those things that insurance companies consider when determining that premium or that rate? Yeah,
for sure. So everything from your age, your state of origin, your zip code, whether you're male or female, that all goes into what your premiums are based on. So your driving record, just like you said, your insurance history. They usually look back 5 years to see what kind of insurance history you've had, what limits you've had, and whether or not you're just a good driver or not. So whether you bundle with home insurance is a big one here in Colorado. I think Tesla will, when they do launch the Tesla insurance, if it's not like fully nationwide in the US, they'll start out in markets that are much more temperate. Phoenix, California.
Less variables.
Exactly. So like in Colorado, we have snow and hail, and that's going to be the first thing that they're going to look at is how much they're paying out for claims, and if they're losing money on massive hailstorms that come through the Denver metro area and destroy everyone's Teslas.
What do you gather that might be?
So we've already known from leaks that I think Caleb from the Tesla show posted some information that it was underwritten by a separate insurance company. Tesla Insurance had the product, but then the obviously underwritten insurance coverage was through a separate company. So I don't know.
You think they might acquire that insurance company?
If they're trying to acquire companies, not just in the U.S. but worldwide for their market, that could be what he's talking about. But I don't know if it's a big cost to start an insurance company. So and just like Warren Buffett said, like usually insurance companies don't get into the car market. Like you can expect probably the same amount of success by a car company joining the insurance market. So it makes me wonder if they're going to be underwritten by a specific carrier who they are going to have part ownership in.
I mean, they've done that in very many ways in Australia. They
Yep.
already offer a similar package where
Correct.
they partner together with an
Yep.
insurance company.
Yep.
Um, let's talk about maybe some of the advantages that Tesla may have with the data that they have access to with their vehicles in terms of metadata, telematics. These cars collect a ton
Of data.
of information.
Yeah.
So, what do you think that they will leverage? Tesla will leverage with these cars, and maybe sort of an appended question to that is, how will they ensure privacy? Because that's one of my concerns
Right.
as an owner of a Tesla.
Yep.
Is where is that dividing line between getting a great rate and protecting my privacy as a Tesla owner?
Yeah, so I mean, just first and foremost, every carrier, I mean, as they kind of understand how this is kind of working, comes with like a telematics, like a plug-in, a device, or an app that you download, and all those collect data. So
That's optional, though, by the way, right?
Correct,
Is
correct,
there
yeah.
anyone that's requiring that?
no,
Okay.
nope. So you always have the option. They give you a discount at initial business submission, and then you get an additional discount based on your driving habits. But I think first and foremost, privacy is very important to me. So my data that I share from my car is literally the only data I think that I give any company. I mean, other than Apple, which is pretty privacy conscious. But the ability for them to know, whether or not you have full self-driving or autopilot, if you're flooring it off the line or slamming on your brakes or driving between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m., all that's going to go into, rating you and making sure that you're paying the premium that you should be paying based on your driving habits. But I mean, I can see Tesla down the road, like once everyone has this insurance or has this ability to purchase this insurance, hey, look, if you upgrade to autopilot or full self-driving or whatever, we're going to reduce your insurance premiums on your car by $100 a month or something to that effect. I don't know if it'll be that extreme, but with the ability for them to be able to track what you're doing in your car specifically. I mean, we all have Model 3 owners anyway, the little camera above the rearview mirror anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, that's not active, and I trust Elon. I think that that's definitely the case, but, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting kind of transition into this as we get to that point.
Yeah, I think that we'll soon hear, hopefully, have a lot more transparency with what types of data Tesla is collecting on its owners, because this is going to be a whole nother level. If a car owner says, I'm going to allow you not only to collect data about my car, but I'm going to allow you to associate it with my driving and where I travel, and I mean they're really going, the information that's in these vehicles. When this car knows when I leave home, when I come home, it knows where I spend my time, how long I spend there, how fast I drive,
Exactly.
Whether I'm, how many times I'm using launch mode, in ludicrous mode,
Exactly.
performance mode,
Yeah.
and there's going to be a lot of data that owners are going to trust Tesla with in exchange for an insurance rate. So, how do you think that they will ensure people's privacy about that?
Well, we already have to, check a box for data sharing in the cars when we opt into that data sharing, ability for the car to do it. And they already gather all this insurance or all this information from us already as drivers.
But it's anonymous at this point.
Correct. So at some point, I assume they're going to use this like a token key or something, very similar to how Apple does, Apple Pay on your phone, where the card's not actually on your phone. It's just a unique identifier for this device.
Right.
I think it will be very similar, but I mean, even when this launches, they're going to be able to go back and all the history of you driving. I don't know how far back they'll go or not, but I mean, it's all going to be just based on what, how you've been driving and what you possibly could potentially, be as a future driver.
I mean, so let's sort of transition into what sort of advantages and business opportunities, because you know the insurance industry well. You probably are familiar with some of the deficiencies and inefficiencies of the insurance industry. What sort of benefits will Tesla be able to capitalize on in a business perspective in terms of revenue?
So first and foremost, if they're bringing body shop work in-house, that's going to be a massive one. The upcharge for auto body shops to fix any cars is is astronomical to
So
what
that
they could.
exists, regardless of what type
For
of car?
sure, for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, any type of car, from a Toyota Camry to a Lamborghini, whatever it may be. It's really going to be huge for them because they're going to have the absolute cost of what it needs.
Yeah.
And I think Elon's even stated that he doesn't ever want service centers to be profit centers.
Yep.
Like that just needs to be what needs to be done to have the car, and then the car will sell itself. So, the amount of data they're going to have on each driver for each vehicle is huge because they're going to know exactly what your common practices are, and if you've had any claims in the past, they're going to know about them, and I mean that just comes with your insurance history. Looking 5 years back on the reports. So
What I in terms of the benefits that I see as someone who's come from the software industry, you're going to be able. Tesla's going to be able to automate a lot of analytics intel precisely. I mean, they're going to be able to create software that has an algorithm that makes things far more efficient to tell how safe of a driver someone is. With current insurance providers, they have external data that they only have that to sort of assess, okay, how dangerous or safe of a driver are we bringing on to insure. So I think that there's an upside there to leveraging software to be able to instantly pull the logs of, like you said, however far back they go, 6 months, 12 months. And not only that, they'll of course have access to DMV records just like normal insurance companies. And I think there's going to be an efficiency that happens there
for sure
with being able to leverage software to determine how safe or not a driver is. So I really, really like that. So one of the other thoughts that I have about these vehicles and where I think Tesla could sort of take an opportunity to make more efficient is having everything in one place. So I've talked a lot about this on my videos. It's vertical integration. It appears like Tesla is moving towards becoming their own cell supplier, buying out mining companies and controlling that cradle to grave. This could potentially be a significant revenue generator. How much insight can you provide into the insurance industry in terms of profitability of that market, how much money they're making?
Well, and that's why I initially said, they're going to start in very temperate markets. Like insurance in Colorado for home carriers is absolutely not profitable. They lose money every single year.
Sure, I mean, hail.
Which is why our auto insurance premiums keep going up, and why most carriers require you to bundle with home and auto. So it's going to be a very fine line for Tesla, just with the ability to buy the policy through your center screen, which I assume they're going to do. Like one click tap, and you're going to have your rate, and just that's going to be it. I mean, but it's really going to depend on, how people are driving and how many accidents are being reported every single quarter, and I mean that could definitely affect their bottom line. But bundling with home insurance eventually, I'm not sure if they would ever get into that, but I can, with Elon's mention of most exciting product line, just coming in the future, like I can definitely see them get into like air conditioning units and obviously the solar roofs and solar on top.
At getting into sort of the smart home.
All that stuff. Industry. Like if that was all tied to the energy that your house uses and your car, like I mean they could potentially jump into that as well and really give you that. But like I said, with like just in the Denver metro area for an example, like there's just no profitability in home insurance at all. So.
But I mean, outside of Colorado, I mean, there's got to be some opportunity there to create some really nice revenue, especially with the efficiencies and the advantages that Tesla vehicles will have. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room here with these vehicles, autopilot.
Right.
How does autopilot? I mean, we have heard from Tesla that autopilot statistically makes the car and the driver safer.
Right.
So how do you anticipate them leveraging autopilot as a strong business case for people going with that Tesla insurance versus somewhere else?
Right. So they're going to be able to tell when you're using autopilot and when you're not. So, I mean, in the event that you're in an accident and you have Tesla insurance, if you were in autopilot, I can definitely see that not affecting your rates as much as, if you weren't in autopilot, or if, you were in launch mode in one of your performance vehicles or whatever it might be. It's all going to depend on where their metrics and their data show that there's going to be, an ability for them to gain revenue from people upgrading to, the full self-driving computer, or from hardware 2 or 2.5, and actually using that once we get to feature complete full self-driving by the end of this year.
Yeah.
So obviously you're still going to have to be aware that you're paying attention, and I can potentially see them activating the camera in the Model 3s, and then eventually in the S and the X when those are ultimately refreshed. And hey, were you paying attention?
Internal camera.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Were you paying attention when you got in the accident, or were you looking at your phone? Or until we get to full level 5 self-driving, like you still have to maintain your awareness. So I can see them using all aspects that they have in their repertoire to make sure.
There's going to be copious amounts of video data that the car is collecting. With the external cameras in particular, let's say that you get into a wreck, Tesla will be able to reference that video data to confirm what you're saying verbally or what you've submitted in the claim, and that I think is that's something that no other car at the moment has the ability to do.
No, and no insurance carrier rates for that right now. I mean, Sentry Mode on my car looks at the front camera and then the two side cameras, but eventually it will use all 8 cameras.
Yes.
And if you have that going, like no insurance carrier right now will give you a rate based on the ability for you to record all this footage on your car.
Yeah.
They have no idea that you even have that. So it's like, are they giving you a better rate for having that access? No, but Tesla Insurance definitely would, I assume.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I've seen plenty of cases where a Tesla has been parked in a parking spot. Someone pulls in and either backs up into it or side swipes it or something like that.
So
and
painful.
I actually had that happen when I first got my car. A couple of months after I first got my car, I don't know at what point or what day, but we had a snowstorm. It was covered in the snow gunk. Was washing my car, and then I realized that there was this long sort of streak along the side of it where someone's bumper had just sort of run, and it, I didn't have any proof or record of who did that. But if I had the cameras for autopilot recording that incident, I hopefully would have gotten a license plate, a date, and a time, and that to me exponentially adds some value, because then Tesla can say, I think an owner can then be a little bit more protected, because Tesla will say, we realize this was not your fault. We're not going to increase your premium. We have a license plate of this driver who essentially hit and run, and we're going to go after that insurance company of that driver and have them pay for the repairs versus Tesla. So you're cutting out a lot of, I don't know if you would call it insurance fraud, but you're cutting out a lot of that sort of misrepresentation of reality.
Well, and many people, have a hailstorm or something like that, or they have like exactly what you just said on your Model S, and they take the check from the insurance company and they go buy something else with it, and they don't fix their car. With Tesla Insurance, they're obviously going to know if you use that money to fix it, and if it's all done in-house, then, I mean, it pretty much cuts out the middleman, which it alleviates all that type of insurance fraud that is even possible. But, I mean, like a comp claim like that would have been, where you have no idea what happened, but there's just a massive scrape on your car. I mean, that doesn't increase your rates. Carriers don't increase rates for comprehensive claims, but you do get tiered differently. So you have preferred tier, and then you have like different tiers below it where those rates ultimately cost more, and you can be readjusted halfway through your term, or whenever your renewal is. So it can definitely affect, just in general, comp claims, roadside claims. You can be tiered differently with your insurance carrier, and I don't think Tesla would penalize you for that. But again, it all comes down to the bottom line. If they're shelling out money, to replace comp claim after comp claim, they're going to have to recoup that money somewhere else.
What sort of premium impact do you think that this will have? So I pay around, I think it's $250 a month for my premium for my Model S.
Just the Model S?
Yeah, just the Model S. That's specifically looking at that. We've got another car on the policy. So my total monthly is a little bit higher than that. But for the Model S, about $250 a month. How much of an impact do you think this will have in terms of savings for me as an owner? Talking about all the things that we've discussed, all of the efficiencies that Tesla will be able to implement, what's your guess as to how that will benefit me as an owner by agreeing to give Tesla my data?
So, I mean, they're going to have to make it worth it, because, as I said, bundling with your renter's insurance, your home insurance, your umbrella, all that kind of stuff, that's going to be a big deal. And most Tesla owners are very well off, should I say, and you know, if you have an umbrella policy with your home insurance, you know, most carriers require you to have the auto in-house for your umbrella policy to cover, you know, your excess liability for your auto insurance. So they're going to have to make it worthwhile for people to break off that multi-policy discount and maybe even potentially that umbrella to have just coverage through there. And who knows, they might offer excess liability just with the auto insurance. I mean, that's a possibility as well. I mean, they're disrupting all these different markets, and I feel like, you know, insurance is just the next one that is ripe for the innovation because it's not there yet. And we're super behind.
It's very antiquated.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think that Tesla would insure non-Tesla vehicles? Because, you know, we have the Model S and we also have a Volvo XC90. So if they purchase an insurance company to be able to sort of accelerate that ramp up of offering this product, does it make sense for Tesla, even though they're not able to collect that data, to insure non-Teslas?
I think so, for sure, because especially if it's underwritten by a separate company that they either have part ownership in or they're partnering with. I mean, because eventually that secondary vehicle, you know, they're going to know what you're paying, and they can be like, look, if you purchase a new Tesla or a used Tesla or whatever, your rates are going to be this with us versus what you're currently paying with another carrier, or what you're currently paying with a third-party vehicle. But I mean, it all comes down to cost again. My friend has a Model X, and his wife had a fender bender, and one of the Falcon Wing doors was hit, and it's $11,000 to replace a Falcon Wing.
Yeah.
Which is excessive. I mean, it's expensive. Very. So, I mean, his auto insurance on his Model X a year is like $4,200 with a clean driving record. So it's very expensive. I mean, and again, all the numbers we're using here are inflated because we're in Colorado, and the hail here is just detrimental. But I mean, it's very prevalent, but most insurance rates probably aren't that high.
This is a question that came up that I think is probably a really good one to ask at this point, which is why are Teslas so expensive to insure with insurance companies? Is that a factor of them truly being expensive to fix? It's sort of novelty that there's not a lot of body shops, that body shops increase the rate because they run the market in that area. Why are they so expensive to fix?
It really is just considered a premium brand.
Okay.
BMW, Mercedes, you know, even Volvo. I mean, Teslas just are expensive cars. I mean, Model 3s are helping bring some of that down. I don't think my monthly rate for my 3 is $250 or anywhere near that. I think it's probably closer to maybe $150. But I don't know if that's because the car is smaller or less expensive or what have you. But I
mean, you're dealing with the value of the total value of the vehicle, right? So it's not always necessarily that it's expensive to fix, but it's just a more expensive car.
Correct.
So your premium is going to be factored in.
And it all depends if you have state minimum limits of $25,000 per person and $50,000 per accident, or the maximum of, you know, $500,000 combined single limit, which is going to pay out quite a bit compared to the state minimum limits. So all that factors in, whether you have gap coverage on there, what your deductibles are for comp and collision, roadside, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting when they do release it, because it's going to be a wake-up call, I think, to current carriers for sure.
That's encouraging to hear, because I think that there are a lot of rumors out there that when you compare the vehicle to a similar priced car, that this is exponentially more expensive to insure, but you don't believe that's the case.
No, for sure not.
Yeah.
No.
Based on what you've seen and based on the vehicles that you
for sure.
For your clients.
Yeah, 100%. BMW 3 Series, not even an M3, would be probably equal or more than my car.
Yeah.
Carriers are starting to come around to realize there's not a giant engine. There's just a battery pack and 2 rotors. Like, I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally is not. The mechanical cost for a Tesla compared to something else is much lower. So, I don't know. I think they're starting to kind of figure that into all their data. But again, legacy insurance carriers are all just rating based on zip code and what data they have, you know, since they began. So it's it's kind of anyone's best guess on where, you know, it's going to come out to be.
In terms of the, you know, maybe 1 or 2 last questions here, on the home insurance side, is it easier to get a policy for a home versus this, because there's less variables for a home? Because you know what I gather, you know, I have my home insured. I have home insurance.
Yep.
It's far less expensive to insure my home than it is
Correct.
both of my vehicles. So
Yep.
to me, that sort of implies that that should be a very easy, natural thing for Tesla to offer as a bundle product.
Correct. Yeah, and I definitely think so. But again,
you have solar, and you have the energy storage piece, which
all that.
which have connectivity to
Yep.
to Tesla servers.
For sure, for sure. And I mean, it just comes down to the cars are moving and the homes are not. But you also look at it, you pay, you know, $1,000 for home insurance in Colorado, you know, on average, for an average size house. And, you know, you have a hailstorm come through and destroy your roof, that's upwards of $15,000 to $25,000 that Tesla would have to pay out now for a new roof that cuts into their bottom line. And I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's something that they might get into it. I mean, it might just be auto right away, and it might just be in specific states. That's kind of the nice thing about insurance is they can just rate for, you know, California or Arizona or wherever it might be, and leave states like us alone for a little bit to kind of see what data we have if we're interested in it. But I'm sure they have a giant team probably looking into it right now.
Sure.
Just crunching numbers.
Yep, absolutely. Logan, super appreciate your time.
Yeah.
This has been extremely insightful, and I hope everyone that's watching found some value in it. I'd love to hear in the comments down below, what are your thoughts when Tesla offers Tesla insurance? Do you think that you would take advantage of it based on what you've heard from Logan today? Sound off in the comments. Thanks so much for tuning in. Logan, thanks for coming on and dropping some knowledge. I'll see everyone on the next video.